One of the really neat things that I wanted to share with everybody watching is that you both were honored by the United Nations with the Global Ambassador of Peace Award. And it really is, it's perfectly tied into this book, Touch of Peace. So if you both would maybe just share a little bit about that experience and what it was like to represent Master Paramhansa Yogananda at the United Nations.
Yes, it was really a great honor for us. We were informed about 3 years ago that we were going to be nominated for this award. And it's done by a organization associated with the United Nations, an official association.
Affiliate.
Yeah, affiliated. And he had long watched the progress of Ananda and our teachings in the world. He had followed the career, one might say, of Swami Kriyananda. And then when Swami Kriyananda passed, he was concerned that Ananda might not continue. So he just watched carefully. And after 3 or 4 years, he was certain that Ananda was continuing to expand into the world and bring light and peace and harmony. And so as a result of that, he felt that it was absolutely right to honor Ananda with that award. But Devi and me, being the spiritual directors and head of Ananda worldwide, since the award is given to individuals, not to a group, it was given to us. But it's really an award on behalf of the work that Ananda as a whole does to bring about peace and harmony and unity throughout the world.
The award was given to us by a wonderful man. Jyotish kept referring to him. His name was Shomik Chowdhury. And he, as we said, is the head of an affiliated organization. And so we had been in India for a number of months, and on our way back to Ananda Village in California, we stopped at New York and stayed in quite near the United Nations, which was thrilling. I'd never been to the United Nations, and there really is a special energy there. It really was created out of a vision of, it was born after World War II, of trying to find a way, again, like yoga, to unite the world. And I just was reading recently that the United Nations was actually inaugurated 1947, I believe, last week. It was in June. And it said on that day when the United Nations was being inaugurated, Master was in San Francisco giving a talk on racial equality at some conference. So when we were notified we'd be giving a brief talk at a chapel near the United Nations, part of the grounds, I thought, what will we say? What will we say? And then in Master's little book, Metaphysical Meditations, the opening prayer is Prayer for a United World. And so we read that, and I felt so thrilled. And then when I saw that on the day, I saw it recently that Master had been in San Francisco at the inauguration of the United Nations in New York, I thought, well, Master, you weren't invited there, but you sent 2 of your children, Jyotish and me, you sent us there, and we could represent you in this wonderful vision of a united world, which was so dear to your heart.
I'll just add a slight reminiscence. During the time that we received the award, there were 2 others that received the award. And generally it's given to people who have an impact on the world in terms of social equality, one might say, or social upliftment. Mm-hmm. And at the time we were given the award, there was a woman also given the award who had done a lot of work working with women's rights and children's rights, especially among refugees who were living in all over the world. in refugee camps, and she had spent her lifetime trying to help those people. But Dr. Chowdhury talked to us briefly, personally, and he said he was particularly happy to give an award to Ananda.
Mm.
And he kind of was ruing the fact that while the original purpose of the United Nations, and still the purpose of the United Nations, is very uplifted and has a beautiful direction to it, the reality is that it still is primarily warring camps among political appointees who emphasize separation and political conflict within the votes of the United Nations. And together we were talking about the fact that there's no way out of the world status of conflict as long as there isn't an upliftment of consciousness. It's only when there's an upliftment of consciousness and people begin, including politicians and nations, to see the unity of all people and the rights of all people, that there will be significant changes. And he was really complimenting Ananda on the fact that our primary work was not just social, although that has an element, we have an element of that, but was primarily producing things that help uplift the consciousness of mankind. And he complimented us also on our blogs, which he reads regularly on the Touch of Light blogs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. It's wonderful that they are reaching people with this message of hope and through the teachings of yoga and self-realization as a way for unity, the true unity.
Yes, and in fact, Dr. Chowdhury has invited representatives from Ananda, some of our teachers on the East Coast, to give presentations at previous International Day of Yoga, days of yoga that are celebrated in a big way at the United Nations. Actually, there's a big lawn adjacent to the United Nations, and they have yoga postures being led by different groups going on all day long. But one of our teachers was part of a panel talking about a vision of a united world and how yoga can help that.